Hi everyone, and welcome to the newest edition of OneOnOne. For today, for the next 15 minutes, we have Minister Michelle Hooyboer Winklaar, who is number 8 on the AVP list. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Yandel.
And thank you for joining us. Now let's get right into it. Now women, universally, but also on the island, have been dealing with the same issues they have been dealing with for 30 years. I want you to tell me, as the only female minister within the last term, what do you think was the best thing that you accomplished for the female population on this island?
Well, I think that, as you say, for many years, and not just in Aruba, but around the world, we face a lot of the same issues. And one of the things that I really focused on, it has been sort of one of the primary areas of focus for me since I started in 2009, is really engaging and activating women to be more conscious about what our issues are, because a lot of times we actually are not really aware of what are the things that actually maybe are the obstacles in our way, and that there are some, and that we need to be aware of them in order for us to fix them and to remove them. So a lot of what I've been doing in the last 4 years is really trying to gather women together and talk about the issues in a very open and transparent way to figure out, well, what are the things that keep us behind and what are the things that we need to do. From a government perspective, there are laws that can help in this, and there are a number of changes to laws that we've made over the last 4 years. But besides that, it's really about engaging, and so that's why I wanted to create the Women's Development Center, Centro para Desarrollo de Gente Mujer, because we needed one place to be able to bring all these women together and really trying to facilitate, to promote, to activate them, engage them into actual action. I think that's the best word for it. And whether that's finding out more information, so access to information, which is a very powerful thing. Networking amongst ourselves, because together we just are able to accomplish a lot more things. And bringing people together in International Women's Day. Twice, 2011, 2012, engaging women in a very prominent way and sending out that message that, guess what, we're here and we do matter. And so that has been really my focus amongst a number of other initiatives focusing on a lot of women, but really I think the key word there is engaging and activating.
Now you mentioned bringing awareness. What are the 2 key points and 2 key aspects that you always focused on when you were at a conference and gathering women? What are the 2 key things, would you say, that you really wanted to bring attention to?
I would say that the first is economic participation.
Okay.
And that is both a part of labor participation, so more women entering the labor workforce, but not only that, more female business ownership. And so those 2 aspects, economic participation, because at the end of the day, economy and your ability to be able to generate an income and be able to be independent of somebody else, in this case a man, is essential in making sure that we move forward as women. So whatever we can do to make sure that women have more opportunities in the labor force, and that is, part-time work, it is raising awareness again of what is it in the labor force that keeps us behind. Educationally, we're doing so well.
Right.
Women and girls are doing excellent. Now we need to see it translate itself into better positions and more influential positions in the private sector and obviously in the government sector as well. We always want to see women succeed and move forward. So that would be definitely one of them. The other one that I would say is really bringing more focus about domestic violence and things that are probably more of the taboo subjects that we really don't like to discuss a lot in any country and in any situation. It are the things that probably we want to keep a little bit quiet, embarrassment and a lot of other factors, cultural factors. So bringing awareness around this, and SADEM has done an amazing job of doing that, working with women that have gone through domestic violence, that have already maybe passed through it but haven't created the self-esteem that they need yet to move on from that situation, and even talking to women that are actually currently going through that situation. So those are the 2 key issues that I would say, if we are able to tackle these and really move on and promote and develop, I think we're looking at a much more equal opportunity for both men and women.
Great. Now I want to get into the bigger picture here. You're the Minister of Economic Affairs, Culture, and Social Affairs. Those are three big fields. I want you to tell me, within your last term, the most positive thing you did for Aruba that you think the island reaped maximum benefits out of.
Well, it's difficult to say one, but if I have to pick one, I would say really the work that's been done, not just by me, but many stakeholders around in really promoting and stimulating our small business sector. And the reason is because small businesses, they represent about 93 to 94% of all businesses on the island. And that is about 60 to 70% of our GDP. So it's really what we call the backbone of our economy. And anything that we could have done in that area helps stimulate our economy, helps fortify it, and helps stabilize it for any kind of instability that could happen. The other side of the coin is, if I look back and why do I think that this is such an important thing, is because in the last 4 years we've seen a growth of about 1,600 new businesses. That's net. So the ones that came in, the ones that went out, that net is 1,600 additional businesses, and that means jobs. And so when we talk about small businesses, we're talking about jobs, and anything that we can do there, at the end of the day, is really helping every family and anybody that is looking for a job, and people that want to have their own businesses. That's what it means for us.
Now, we just went through a few positives. I want you to think of something that you would redo, if you could, within your last term as the Minister of Economics, Social Affairs, and Culture.
Well, redo, I think maybe, not redo in the sense, but I would say maybe some additional focus on it.
Okay.
I would say that one of the top areas that we really need to improve on is the service that the government provides to the community, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're there for. So more efficiency, the ability to be able to get back to people as quickly as possible. So when you go to a government department, you need to get information, or you need to, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's a service, wherever it is. And I would say that there's a lot more work to be done there to help facilitate the civil servants that are working in the government too, to help them better serve our community. And at the same time, of course, at the end of the day, is that we're able to do what we are here to do, which is provide the service in a rapid, in a friendly manner. So I think there's more work to be done there, but there's a lot of willingness from both sides that customers want to see this, and they are very patient, But at the same time, I think we really need to focus a lot more on this, on the client services part.
Okay, I want to get into you being born in Canada, and you lived there for a majority of your life, 34 years. How did this ultimately impact your role as the Minister of Culture in Aruba? I want you to talk about the pros and cons.
Yeah, well, I think, of course, as you say, there are pros and there are cons to not having been born here. But certainly one of the things is that I wanted to live here so badly, even though I was very far away, and I grew up and I was, I knew a different culture. But because my parents instilled in me from such a young age all of the wonderful things that Aruba had to offer, and their love for this island, and when they ultimately came back here after living abroad for so many years, it was just natural that I wanted to follow them. So from that perspective, I think I was much more in tune with the advantages and the things that make this place so unique. At the same time, of course, there are always things that you're learning constantly. If you haven't grown up in a place, you are learning certain things and nuances and traditions and the small parts of culture that maybe you don't know. But it is, I think it's a nice thing that, because at the end of the day, Aruba has a lot of different nationalities living in on this island. So the ability to look at things from different angles and different perspectives, I think it helps enormously. So from the culture side, for me, it's always looking at it from a fresh perspective and really enjoying it. From somebody that grew up in snow and grew up in a totally different environment, for me, I can't even imagine living in anywhere else in the world.
So you feel like you fit right in?
Absolutely.
I want to think optimistically for a minute here, and let's say your party is re-elected for the next term.
Yes.
I want you to talk about whether, I know it's not necessarily under your control, but I want you to talk about if you would be willing to accept all three of those big areas again as economics, culture, and social. And I want you to tell me your political agenda for the new term.
Well, absolutely. I'm open to continuing with those three portfolios. More than happy to do that. I mean, I loved all three of them equally. There's not one that's better than the other one, and they fit so well together. I think that's a lot of times people say, wow, economics, culture, social, they seem so different, and actually there are a lot of similarities. There's so many connections. The platform for the next 4 years, I would say, is really, it's about continuing building on the foundation that I've created already. Myself, the departments, the team that's worked on this. So it's really about seeing through now to fruition a lot of the things that have already been started. That is, again, the gender issue, women's development, children. We see laws now being passed for the supervision and regulation of child daycare centers. So that's something that I really absolutely am so happy that we're almost on the cusp of seeing that become a reality. The same thing with nursing homes, microfinancing for entrepreneurs. So there's all these things that we've worked so diligently at for so many years, and now they're at the point of where it's going to blossom. And I want to see that absolutely go forward in the next 4 years.
I want to get to a more personal level with you. Being a minister is undoubtedly a commanding role. That is, I think, enough said. But especially for
24/7.
someone, yes,
Yes.
But especially for someone who is a mother and a wife, what was the learning curve? What were the experiences? How did you feel about it? Were there any moments of self-doubt, or you want to take it a little bit slower?
Well, there are always difficult moments, but that's in any job. There are highs and there are lows, and being a minister, there's no exception to that. There might be just bigger highs and bigger lows.
Yes, a little bit more.
And you're doing it all under the spotlight. So
Right.
that is another dimension to it. And it, of course, is difficult when you have a young children, you have a family, and you're trying to combine these things. But I think it's so important that for anybody that is willing to be able to do this, to try and do the balance. It's not going to be perfect. There are no days that are the same. So some days go really well and some days don't go as well with your family. So that combination of things, you have to have a very strong and willing partner that is going to be able to take on their share. But it's so important for me to have done it, to actually contribute another perspective, and that female perspective and the perspective of a mother of small children. So, we need to have all different types of politicians and all different types of ministers. And so we have to sort of create the balance where we can, forgive a lot yourself when things don't go as well, and just know that, it's for the best. At some point in time, you'll be able to reap the benefits, and that you hope that your family is very understanding.
Thank you, Michelle, for being on
you.
OneOnOne today. And thank you for all the viewers at home for joining us. And make sure to register to vote, because if you don't really necessarily have a right to complain, and it is your right. And be sure to learn about your candidates, because you want to know that you're voting for something that you also stand for. And make sure to tune in for the next edition of OneOnOne. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.